Hey guys, Lorene here with Silverliningnation. Hope you guys are having an amazing day, and we just want to thank you guys for tuning in to Silverliningnation. We really appreciate it. Also, guys, make sure you share, subscribe, and most of all, stay sober. Bye, guys.
That's me.
Hey y'all, I have
Andrea
here with me. You guys know how horrible I am with names, so if that ain't changed yet. But Andrea is here with us, and she's here to share her story with us. And guys, I'm so excited that, you know what? I love when people ask me about being on the show. And she came up and she's like, hey, I'm interested. I'm like, oh my goodness, thank you so much for asking me. So she's going to share what it was like, what it's like now, and what happened. Tell us about your story, girl.
Okay,
Tell us what happened.
Well, yes, I am super excited to be able to sit here
Thank
with you today. And, you know, it actually is, I think what you do is so amazing for us to be able to, you know, to have a forum, to have a vessel to share our stories with.
Yeah, well, thank you.
It means a lot. It does. And it's like, just before we get started, it was like you were the first person I thought of and this happened probably 6 months ago. I went to my high school reunion, which for someone in sobriety, it's kind of a scary thing to do, right?
Yeah,
Not scary. It just it really you go into it with different eyes, I guess. And you know, I got the opportunity to see a bunch of people that I hadn't seen for a long time, and a bunch of near and dear friends asking me, wanting to know, and I didn't want it to all be about me, right? And so that's why I think something like this is so important, that we can not only just help get the message out there to people that are suffering, but the people that want to understand.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's mainly what it's about.
Yes.
You know, letting people understand what's going on, understanding what's going on with their family members as well. Yeah. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Yeah. So you've been sober how many years now?
Just over 4 years.
Awesome.
Friday date is April 18th of 2019.
Awesome.
A day that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and that was a long journey just to get to that point.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me.
Yeah, a long journey just to get to that point.
So how did you tell us about what happened? How did you find out that you're an alcoholic?
Well, it does run in my family, on both sides. My mom's dad was an alcoholic. He was the town drunk of Charleston, West Virginia. Charleston, they know him by name. Well, the people that probably aren't around anymore do. And then my dad was as well. He is over 30 years sober. He did go to.
Your dad went to a 12-step program?
Yeah, my dad is over 30 years of sobriety.
That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
So you came into the rooms pretty young.
No, my parents were divorced. So how it all started, you know, I had the alcoholic tendencies, I guess you would say, way before I knew that I was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And that came a way of harboring secrets. I was abused as a child by a family member, and I kept that close to myself for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so how did my alcoholism emerge into being an alcoholic with the substance? It was the first drink I ever took. It was the first drink I ever took, and it relieved all of that, just everything,
anxiety and fear,
all the stuff that I carried. I carried, you know, by harboring that secret. And not really just even knowing who I was, you know, I just, you know, as a young child, I just felt, and maybe it was carrying that with me, but I just never felt like I fit in. We moved a lot, so I was always having to start over, always having to like redesign myself to whatever city it was.
Reinvent yourself.
Yeah, reinvent was a good one. Yeah, and so, you know, that first drink just took off a lot of pressure, and then in my first drink, I blacked out. You know, I blacked out, but that didn't stop me. I wanted it again because that was just a release that, that I had been needing at that moment. So
it took me a while to get to the blackout part. You were fast.
That's blacker color. No, and that journey just continued. And in high school, I did what high schoolers do. They drank. I was probably, and from what I hear, I was the one that would drink a little bit more. It's kind of like a funny thing. Like I look back on. Unfortunately, I have a really good memory. Would they say that's like an elephant or an ox or both?
An elephant.
An elephant. Okay, because I remember drinking vodka and my face would turn beet red. My face would turn red, so I was allergic to vodka. Is what I told myself. Not allergic to vodka. I was allergic to charcoal. So I had to get the potato filtered vodka, but that wasn't what I was allergic to. Just I didn't have that mindset at that moment. And in college, that just continued. I think when my alcoholism really took over, and it's funny, we just had a discussion about high functioning within amongst friends, and I guess I would have called myself high functioning because I was able to get all things done, but I wasn't really living.
Yeah, a functioning alcoholic.
Yeah. I wasn't really living, and the tipping off point was like I started to have panic attacks, which maybe those were just the withdrawal of not having alcohol in my body, and my cure was to drink more. To drink more, and then those panic attacks turned into seizures if I didn't have it in my body. When it started to progress, it progressed really fast. When I got into that 24/7 mode, when I needed it in my body all the time, and that was just a downward spiral that I couldn't get out of. I got a DUI. I had gotten one in college, but it was in a small town and just paid that off. No big deal. But when I got one here in Frisco, it turned a different way. That's when the control came in of other people, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that. The state was telling me what to do, and then family gets involved and they tell me where to go, and that just made me hold on to that one thing tighter. It really did. Yeah. It really did. The one thing that I thought I could control. It spiraled from there.
Yeah, it gets crazy. It's even more crazy when someone's trying to tell you you can't do something.
Right.
It's like, we alcoholics, you tell me I can't do something, then I'm gonna dig my heels in even harder.
Yes.
So I can relate to that.
Yes.
So did you have kids?
Yeah. This is, I've had it's been like a really strange week. And so this moment right now, I know that I probably would get emotional. I told myself, you're probably going to get emotional. And so, yeah, I've got two boys.
Okay.
I was that soccer mom career, taking them to all of their things, making sure that they had the best life that they could possibly have, all while drinking very heavily.
Yeah.
So was I being the best mom that they possibly could have? Probably not, but I thought I was.
Yeah.
I really did. I was just determined to have them in the same school, the same friends, things that I never had. I wanted to give all those things to them, and so yes, I do have two boys, Mason and Drake. They just the other day I saw the first picture of me, the first time that I had to go away for treatment. And a picture of me on that day with them, and it is quite sad to see, but there is also so much joy in it because of where I am today. They were approximately, because my time frame of all of that from 2000, let's see, my first rehab from 11, 12 to 2014 was a big was a big family struggle. And so they would have been about 9 and 11 at that point, I believe. I'm really bad with numbers, like I said, in that time frame. However, fast forward in 2014, we ended up losing our house in Frisco. I lost my job because I was drinking on the job. So I would say I was probably not as careless in the beginning, but towards the end, I was so careless about it. I worked at a retail environment. I was their marketing director, and I would go to one of our merchants at 10 o'clock in the morning and buy the little boxes of wine, and I would keep those in my desk drawer, just like it was juice, you know, just like it was juice. So I ended up losing my job. While I was at my second rehab, I believe it was, we had to put our house up for sale, and it was determined that we were moving to my ex-husband's hometown in Jonesboro. And it's funny, it was a dry county. Yeah.
So weird they used to have those back in the day.
Well, this wasn't that long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this was we moved there, it had been 2013, 2014. And so we moved there. I was at my second rehab, so they moved and then I came. And it just funneled really fast from there. That was when I introduced myself to drinking alcohol that really shouldn't be induced. I did drink hand sanitizer and mouthwash. I had all my funds taken away from me at this point, so I reverted to stealing. I did. I would go and I would take what I thought was rightfully needed for my body to live. It's the best way to put it. I mean, it's just really how it was. I didn't live in that environment long as a family unit. I ended up having to get an apartment just down the street from them. It was like a quadplex. It was a house that they found. And I discovered then that you could actually drink in that town, but only on Main Street. So that's when binding and ditching came into play. And the arrest happened. And jail time happened.
How many DWIs was this from drinking and driving or public intoxication?
I had a DWI, one in college.
Okay.
And that one got paid off. It got expunged in the small town in Mississippi that I was. But the one that I got here in Frisco, that was when those consequences come in, and that was control to me. Right? It really was. And I fought that control. I did. I had weekend stints here in Denton for failed urine tests. I got in my car, got the ankle bracelet on, all the things, and it's just
plus you have the ankle bracelet. Plus did you have a breathalyzer too?
I had the breathalyzer in my car.
In the ankle bracelet.
With the camera. The ankle bracelet came after because that manipulation really set in, and my ex-husband's commute was longer than mine. So, I had to get the kids to soccer practice. So I had, my ways of convincing him to do what I needed him to do so I could still continue to do what I wanted to do. And I blamed it on the Texas heat, why the camera always fell off the side of the car so they could tell who was blowing in it. I mean, all the things.
So you manipulated him to get him to blow in your... Right. Yeah, I've been there, girl.
Yes. I mean, all these tricks that we think we're so crafty. And it's just, so I'm so grateful, like, for today. I remember when I was in my career before, I had to let it go. I didn't have to, I was dismissed from it. We took this test. It was a Gallup test. It was our top 5 strengths. My number 1 strength was adaptability. In my alcoholism, that was the fault. But in my present day, it is still a strength of mine. If I am truly the person that God intended me to be, I am adaptable to situations.
Well, being an alcoholic, we're pretty clever people too.
Yeah.
We find a way to get whatever it is that we want.
Absolutely.
So take away the alcohol and the drugs. I mean, wow, we can become basically anybody we want to become.
Absolutely.
So let's go back to, you're not married anymore, right?
No.
So was your husband one of us, or he just, so I can imagine how long were you married?
We were married for, let's see, we were married for 13 years.
Okay.
It sounds like the unlucky number, but it was, you know, and he tried with me. He really did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he would try to detox me, you know, send the kids off to where we ended up living in Arkansas. He would send them off when we were still in Frisco and do the whole measuring thing and the tapering down and all of this stuff. But, you know, I always say that there's no textbook for how to deal with us, right? But not for lack of trying on his part, and a lot of frustration, He served me divorce papers when I was in jail in Arkansas. My third time for dining and ditching, and I must have been on my fourth rehab at that point, I believe it was. And again, manipulation came in because that third time that you get in trouble for stealing, it's like a year sentence. But I did my research and I told the judge that I was willing to go to a rehab, and I even found it. And it was almost like the what a jail required rehab would be, and I ran away from that. Anyways, so then I was in jail, and he served me divorce papers in jail, and that was, in my eyes, that was my way of getting out, because I was in that insanity, cycle.
Your mind is still fogged up.
And so with that, I left Arkansas, and I went to a rehab.
So how were your children at this time? When you're in jail, is he taking care of them?
Gosh, Mason and Drake, they were, yes, he was taking care of them. Yeah, and in the divorce, he had sole custody.
Okay.
Yeah, sole custody. I got $5,000, and he got sole custody.
Wow.
And you know, I just said I from there I went to rehab in Georgia, but it was actually in Florida. But through that rehab, just like every freshly divorced alcoholic does, I got in a relationship. In that,
so this is your
Georgia.
Fifth rehab? Is that
was Florida? Was my fifth? Yes.
Was it like a vacation?
It was in Delray Beach. You know what? I was. You know, I was pretty serious there until that romance got in, and I don't know where this just snuck in there. You know,
was he in rehab with you?
He was in rehab there. Yeah, I had gotten there first, and then he came afterwards. And he did leave before I did, but he came back down and got me. So yeah, like I like I said, I was freshly divorced. I truly was intending to follow, you know, what I was being told to do there and listen, you know, intently. But I don't think I was ready yet. You know, my whole world had changed. My whole world had changed. And my boys at this point, to answer your question that you had asked, they were about 13 and 15 at that. 13 and 15. And it's so, I really do kind of need to take the time to go back and really pay attention to that. Because, you know, in these 4 years that I've been sober, I need to take the time to do that.
Not really thought about.
Yeah. To really think about that point of my life and the effect it had on them at their ages.
Right.
And how it played out.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask. That's what I was getting to. You know, I'm sure they came to visit you, and, you know, what did they think? What were the conversations like? And the reason I'm asking is not, I'm a mom too.
Yeah.
And I know my children are grown, and they tell me, how it affect them.
Yes.
Drugging and drinking. So that's why I'm asking you. And it's not that I'm trying to put you in an uncomfortable position.
No.
It's like I can relate, and that's
Absolutely.
why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because my children have expressed, and they tell me, and some of them have been on the podcast too.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I was curious about your kids.
Yes.
So.
Well, no, that's funny. My youngest one and I are still, he's still trying to navigate through this.
Mm-hmm.
He's still observing mom.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't say our relationship was the closest by any means.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest one was the most responsive,
Mm-hmm.
and in the words of my person that I depend on a lot.
Your sponsor.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
in the words of my sponsor, who I've kept from when I finally was able to get sober in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Midway.
Oh, cool.
So he did have a purpose. That boy in Florida. But anyways, I get to know my kids as adults now.
Awesome.
I get to, and that's just the best.
I love that. You get to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I get to see them.
I love that.
And I get to help them and, navigate through life.
Mm-hmm.
More so the older one than the younger
Uh-huh.
one, that I have got to say it out loud, the mini me,
Uh-huh.
wholeheartedly. And that in itself, that was, like I had shared with you, I think before we got started, in the 4 years of my sobriety, I've been in communal living.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've been in communal living.
Explain to the viewers what community living is. That what you call it?
Yeah, communal.
Okay.
Community living. Well, so finally, I had that gentleman and I were in a relationship for about 4.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
An enabling relationship on both parts, and that was comfort.
Mm-hmm.
That was comfort to me. And when that dissolved, I ended up in a homeless shelter in Georgia, and am I allowed to say the name of it? The place that I was at? Okay.
You can say the name of it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know. Anyways, I ended up at Providence.
All these rules.
I didn't know.
I love it. You're like, all these rules, can I say that one?
Rule follower. No, but was at Providence Ministries, and I was there homeless after that.
How long were you homeless?
For 97 days, I lived there.
Okay.
And I did have 2 jobs. Now, I need to back up. I did not lose my license. I didn't have a license since 2014.
Uh-huh.
Didn't have a car since 2014. So a lot of my feet and I have had a lot of intimate times together. And so, and it was not because of my DUI.
Uh-huh.
It was because I was too drunk when it expired on my birthday to go get a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I fast forward back to Providence. I was there for 97 days and I had 2 jobs. I was the to-go girl at Chili's,
Mm-hmm.
and at another local restaurant there. And so my routine was I would get up in the morning and I would go volunteer at their thrift store. That was the Providence Ministries bread and butter,
Mm-hmm.
to help offset the cost of what they provided.
Mm-hmm.
And forgot to mention that they did have a women's program there,
Uh-huh.
but I wasn't ready for that yet. I followed the rules of living in the homeless shelter, and I worked really hard, and I really was able to get down a routine and structure,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't fully fall into the other opportunities that they had for me to kind of have that self-discovery of myself. And so I saved up money under the house mom's mattress,
Mm-hmm.
and at 90 or a little bit before 97 days, they said they were going to do the women's shelter, and so that we all had to find a place to live. And I did. Immediately, I found an apartment there, and that first night, that was it. Back to the races.
Wow.
Back to the races for 6 months.
You didn't have that comfort zone, that comfort
Right.
anymore. It was like the
Yeah.
rug is pulled from underneath you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Back to that. And it's funny how you just said that, because like I told you, 4 years of my sobriety. I was in communal living for 3. And I truly feel that was God's way of getting me completely immersed and grounded and taking my steps very slowly with intent.
Yes.
And I quite honestly could not have done that for myself without him.
They tell us sometimes we have to lose everything.
Yeah.
And that sounds like an example of what you had to go through.
Yeah. It truly is. I was, for 6 months, and then it was back to the, and I do have to, my job at the to-go at Chili's, that manager there, I mean, he tried everything he could with me. I had some very caring and loving and patient people throughout my journey, and when I was nothing but selfish, manipulative, steal, and lie. And I remember even him not wanting to let me go, and even going and having to get it signed off on that he could have a breathalyzer for me to still work there. And that's just that's help beyond.
Above and beyond.
But that 6 months in that apartment was just complete destruction. I often joke about I was the cake bread Chardonnay lady in Frisco, and then there I was in Georgia. It's in Dalton, Georgia. It's kind of weird for me not to say it. So there I was in Dalton, Georgia, with my bag of wine from the box. Because the box was too much for me to handle. So I would just get the bag, I could carry it in my purse. I just swap it down right there on the pillow next to me like it was my boyfriend. When they found me on April 18th in my apartment, because my mom had not heard from me. Even as drunk as I was, I always talked to Mama. My dad drove up from Frisco, and I had the empty boxes. Whatever happened to all these bags? The bags make it to the trash can, but the empty boxes didn't. There was lots of them under the bed in the closet. I don't know who I was hiding from, because I lived by myself. And that's when it started. I was in delirium because I had not had a drink in my system after drinking that amount for 3 days. That gentleman from Florida, the one in Georgia, had come to see me, and we were engaged, but we weren't at that moment. I still had the ring and stuff, neither here nor there, but and a fight broke out. And he ended up breaking my hand, this one, because I had a little cast on it for the first few weeks that I was in that women's recovery program at Providence that I didn't pay attention to when I was in the homeless shelter.
How did you pay for these places?
Good question. Good question.
I'm curious.
Well, and that's funny. I'm so glad that you asked that, because I was thinking about that the other day too. I did have insurance. That was what paid for in Florida. The ones here, my mom, she wanted to get me help. And if I but it was that control thing. It had to be my idea. I went to Sante Center here. That was my first one. And then I went to one down in South Texas. I don't even know the name of it. Sunny something. So that was 1, 2. I went to the ranch in Nashville, and that was quite an experience. Okay, so I look at those, and it was that ranch one especially. Time is your massage. This is when we're going to do energy therapy. All the things. All the things. And it's like, that was at a point of my alcoholism that even getting out of there, I couldn't maintain that lifestyle. So it just
sets you up.
For this alcoholic, it took me to go to when I got to Providence Ministries women's program. I was bare bones. They basically didn't have to strip me down. I had already done that for them. And I and I listened and I paid attention and I allowed them to teach me to pick up the pieces that I needed to make me a person that would be whole without substance. The pieces that I needed is really, and it's just that shift and that was so necessary.
So would you recommend treatment centers to anyone that's trying to get sober? Do you think that's would you recommend 12 steps? What is your experience since you've been to a number of treatment centers? And some of them work, and some of them I'm sure planted the seed.
Right.
But having that experience, would you recommend that? Or would you recommend them go there and then come to a 12-step program? What do you feel about that? I'm curious.
I still am very involved with my 12-step program. I start my day with it. and this is 4 years later. You know, I would recommend the person, it be the person's idea.
Instead of someone having an intervention with them saying you need to go.
Yeah, but everyone's journey is different.
That's
you
true.
know, I just was not at that point yet. I had a lot of demons to get out, and that's what, you know, the place in Nashville was amazing for my childhood trauma. That was kind of like that first peel.
Yes.
That first peel. But then it was almost like, well, let's celebrate. You know. So I think I got something from all the rehabs I went to. I definitely do. And I think that my willingness became stronger and stronger with each step that I took. With being that stubborn, strong-willed alcoholic, deep in my soul.
Yeah.
And I did this and it almost came out of my mouth before I even said it because it popped in my mind. I was going to do it at the same time. It was God that said it's ready.
Yeah.
That it's ready, like I'm in it.
Yeah.
You are ready.
Yeah, I can relate to that. And I know that you sponsor other women.
Yes.
Earlier you said that your first sponsor was a male. Is that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, my first sponsor. No, her name's Jordan.
Okay.
So yeah, she does not live in this state.
Okay.
I found her in Dalton. She actually found me.
I'm glad you corrected me on that one.
No.
We just started doing that not too long ago. Where men can sponsor women and vice versa. So,
I haven't had that experience. I have seen people do it. I just don't think that would be the route for me. But it's, everyone's journey is different. You know, which is what makes us so unique but so similar.
Yes.
No, but Jordan found me on a part of the 12-step program on a 12-step, or I'm a 12-stepper. Is that right?
Yeah.
Anyways, that wonderful manager at Chili's, he said, that wonderful manager at Chili's on a Friday night said, your bag looks a little bit chunky there. And he took me outside.
You should pick it up and shake it.
Yeah. He took it outside and he said, how much was this? And I was like, about $20. And he's like, I hope it likes the dumpster. And he was like, who can I call? And a group of women came, and you know, but that was when I was in the homeless shelter.
It's so I'm in my head. I'm looking and picturing this soccer mom. Who becomes a bag lady, homeless. That's your story. Wow.
Walking down in Dalton, Georgia. That could be a song. Walking in Memphis.
It's amazing what this disease can do to us.
It is. It truly, you know, but it's also amazing what the commitment to the work can do. You know, whatever, you know, that in a 12-step program. It's amazing how our life evolves back
and become more meaningful.
to being renewed and more meaningful. And how that happens, you know, like I said, I was in communal living for 3 years, and I feel like all of my steps were very, very defined for me, and I took the time to follow that direction. I don't think I got to, you know, I was 19 months sober. I went through the 90-day program there, and then brother Roy, who's the facility, like the man who started Providence Ministries, he knew my background in the REIT industry and being a marketing director for shopping centers. And he kind of got word of that. I don't think he knew how in depth, but and I think he did kind of get word when I was at the homeless shelter that I had that hour downtime when we got kicked out at 8 and the store opened at 9, and I didn't have to walk down the street to be at my job till 10:45. That I was in there, and I had my 2 racks of roads. I would straighten those shirts, and that's what I did until I had to leave to go to my job. And anyways, he was opening up his 4th or 5th store at the time in Georgia. Like I said, it's the bread and butter to keep the program cost so low, to offer help to people that need it and that are willing to do so. And so he had one. He was going to open his 2nd one in Dalton. The other 3 were out in different towns. But and he asked if I would like to help a team of like 5. There's 5 or 6 of us that were on that job. Walked into a vanilla shell and made that happen.
Wow.
And, you know, and looking back, it was to see something like that and to reignite something that I enjoyed. It was truly a gift.
Awesome.
But and then I was in transition in the women's program. It was 2 houses, the schoolhouse, and then 3 trailers. And so in transition, ladies lived in the trailer. So I lived in a trailer with a couple other joyful women that I met in there. So, and the ladies, to offset the cost of their stay in the program for that 90 days, they would volunteer at the thrift stores. One of any of the 4 or whatever at that time. Now that was the 5th one. I think that's correct. And I didn't like what I saw. I didn't feel like they were getting what I got, you know?
So were these ladies alcoholics and addicts?
Yes, alcoholics and addicts. Yeah, and so and I'm grateful that I had that experience too there to get to know, you know, people with substance issues of all different types of issues. And
mentally ill. And,
yeah, and it was. And I didn't like I didn't think that they were getting what I got when I was in that 90 days. So fast forward, I asked the director of the women's program if, you know, I could go back and be a house mom.
Okay, awesome.
And so I transferred jobs from being at the thrift store to being a house mom.
Awesome.
And so overall, I was there at Providence Ministries in the women's program, not the homeless shelter, for 19 months.
Awesome.
And, you know, my kids were not far from me in my mind, but they were from me in distance. I'll never forget. I do need to share this because you did ask a lot about my boys. I got to watch my oldest son graduate during COVID on a Zoom call on the front porch of that facility with those ladies. Some of them close to his age, and just tremendous support. We were like a family. You know, we went through pain, blood, sweat, and tears together.
Do you still stay in contact with
Yes, I do. Yeah, it's funny. It's so funny. And those are like the points of connection. You know, we were talking before we started of like fostering those relationships and keeping them no matter where we are in life.
Exactly. So important.
It's so important, but I am still definitely in touch with those ladies.
Good.
As well as the director and the assistant director at that place. But you know, there came a point when I was there that I felt like I deserve this, I deserve that, and thank goodness I was surrounded, right? because I deserve to go see my youngest son. This is the one that's on the fence about me, play football. And like I had shared with you, I walked a lot of places and I didn't have a vehicle. But throughout the time that I was there, I was able to buy one for like $3,000 from the assistant director. She was getting a new one, and I bought hers. And what's that first sense of freedom? What do you want to do? But that I deserve, and I got freedom. I deserve to see my boy play football. And God had other plans. He broke that car down in the middle of Tennessee and had me for 13 hours just with myself, away from the ladies, not where I wanted to be. And that was truly a beautiful moment for me. It really was, because it showed my strength. And it also showed me what happens when I try to take that wheel back.
That I'm not in control.
No.
Yeah.
So
I'm not in control.
I'm not in control. Yeah. But so anyways, going back, I'm a big jumper arounder. Anyways, going back to, so I was there for 19 months, and I really knew that I needed to come back to Dallas to start repairing all the stuff that I had done here. And of course, be close to my family. Again, my boys weren't here, my cousins are here, my mom's here. She's getting older. My stepdad, like all my family, my all of them. My brother, my older brother. And so I reached out and asked a lady who had her son and my son, the youngest one, and her son were best friends. He was over at my house all the time. I can say his name. His name's Aiden. Aiden was over at my house all the time, and Anika would come. She was a single mom at that time, and she would come, and she was a pharmaceutical rep, and she would come pick Aiden up, or like I had him spend the whole weekend here, you know. Here I am with wine in the closet, wine in the curtains, wine in the sofa, just whatever. Still working really hard, making sure that all the things got done. And she told me about this vision she had. I did not know that she was in recovery, and that slowly came out as our friendship developed, right? And this vision she had to start sober living homes. And so fast forward, and I remember seeing the logo, and here I am with like my marketing head. I'm like, well, this, but after, the logo was perfect. I just didn't understand it at that time. So fast forward, I reached out to her and said, can you put your ear on the pavement and find out if there's any jobs in recovery or whatever. And a couple of weeks later, she told me that, we're opening a thrift store for my organization that is now thriving. I went to the first house back in the day before I flee the scene. I was intoxicated, unfortunately, but and so now it's grown in all these houses. And so amazing. I interviewed for the position, not with her, with the executive director, and I got it, and I came back. Wow. And that's how I made my way back here, very slowly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that's when you met the people at this 12-step.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Awesome.
And just, and that's in itself, it's a blessing. I think, and none of it's work. When they say work, it is work.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they offered me the job there, I didn't have any money. I was making not a lot at all, maybe a couple $100 a week to work so I didn't have really any savings of any sort. Losing everything, it's kind of hard to rebuild when you're making that little amount, but I was grateful. I had everything I needed.
Exactly.
I didn't have my family or my boys.
Yeah.
But anyways, so the executive director was like, well, we have one that has a pool house. They call that. It's a hut. It really was. And it was my hut, and I loved it. I remember the first time they said that I could live behind that.
Awesome.
But with a stipulation on my part that they put me in the program. Because I didn't want to live behind ladies that I didn't want to. I would never feed someone something that I wouldn't eat myself.
Right.
And I knew Georgia, but I didn't know. I didn't know Simply Grace. And I knew those ladies would be coming in the store to volunteer, and I wanted to be able to understand what their day was like. So I did that, which involved doing their meetings with them in the morning. And when I graduated that after 6 months, I was able to find a 12-step group that is extremely near and dear to my heart. I'm very close with. And in saying that just now, it's like, it's that structure, but it's also that community, and then it's also, you know, having it being so intertwined in your life that if you miss it for a few days because of some reason or sorts of another,
you know it.
You know it. You know it. You know it.
I can relate to that. Yeah. You know when you, it's like your day is not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same. Even though I know that I can restart it at any time.
But I just need to know. I need that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That connection.
For that message, just to
hear the message.
Yeah.
So I try to come every day if I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, every day if I can.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna wrap it up, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Really, I told you, we're just gonna chat, girl.
I know.
And you're not gonna even think about that you're being filmed. That's the beauty part of Silver Lining. We get to chat, and it's like, oh, that was pretty easy.
It was pretty easy.
That's what I love about it. And guys, thank you so much for joining in with us. And once again, if nobody tells you that they love you, heard from us here at Silver Lining, we love you. You guys take care. We talk to you later. Bye.